Just who the hell are you? Kim demanded. If you honestly believe, I'll reveal my identity to you two. You're more foolish than you appear to be, Ridley replied snidely. I will supposedly say that I'm your worst nightmare, not just anyone you would take lightly. Consider yourselves lucky I'm not Ridley. Otherwise, you'd be dead right here, right now. Well, in time, you might find yourself at his mercy since you've already become his target of interests. Your families may also face his wrath. You two should come in the middle of his affairs. At the mention of their families being threatened, Ron began to grow angry. Whoever this person was inside the mecha suit was far more than Kim and Ron could ever imagined. Gemini had clearly been right all around when he had said the Black Shadow has organization to be feared. And what was this mystery van inside this mecha suit that and confirmed it? I swear you try and touch our families, I promise you will regret it, Ron hissed angrily, feeling his mystical monkey powers aurora beginning to react inside of him. That could suppose scare me, Stoppable? Ridley mocked coldly, letting out an evil laugh inside of his mecha suit. You should be, Ron growled. If you even truly know about me, then you'll know what I did to those two alien warlords 2 years ago. I'll have no issue with doing the same to you or anyone else that hurts me the closest to me. Is that so? Oh? Are you willing to cross that line again, Stoppable? Ridley questioned in a mocking tone. They were aliens, not humans, Ron shot back. I have never killed a human being before, but if anyone else tries to go after me and my family in their murderous instance, I just may do it. He remembered what Kim had told him a while ago if he had asked her if she ever killed someone to protect herself, and she told him that as much as she hated the idea of taking another human life, she'd do it to protect her life and the lives of the ones she loved. That sounds awfully dark of someone like you, Stoppable, Ridley mocked. I know you don't have it in you, and if you even as so much haven't tried harming my boss, the wrath of the entire Black Shadow organization will fawn upon you and those you love. I wonder how long your pathetic family members will last while being slowly tortured at Ridley's hands. You know the last person who tried killing Ridley, slowly dissected alive with buzzsaws and various torture weapons. I wonder how long your sister Hannah will last if she slowly dissects her screams, rivering body in a surgical tube. And Kim possible? Maybe Ridley will show her a little mercy before having his men violate every orifice of her body with buzzsaws and various torture weapons. And who knows? Maybe you'll have enough time to live for him to show your severed eyeballs before... Shut up, you piece of shit! Ron suddenly yelled, then suddenly charged at the freight of the truck, separating from Ridley. His entire body was now glowing bright blue as his mystical monkey powers activated. Ron's eyes glowed bright blue as his yell echoed of the sounds of the 1,000 primates. He smashed right through the freight car and flew directly into the large mecha suit. Ridley was unprepared for this and ended up taking a direct hit to the chest. Ron struck the mecha suit so hard that his blow not only dented but cracked the armor, but he also threw Ridley back several feet into the large tank car, which got completely smashed and destroyed. The suit took tons of damage from the blow, but Ron wasn't done yet. He also landed on top of Ridley and slammed his fist into his left leg in his mecha suit, smashing the metal deep in and cracking the armor. The blow was so strong enough that where it actually smashed several sharp pieces into Ridley's leg, breaking his leg bones. Ah, you little bastard, my leg! Ridley roared in both pain and agony and rage. Ron was about to smash in the other leg when Ridley violently shoved him off of his chest, striking him with his clawed hand. Ron broke the fall and landed on his feet, where he skidded across the dirt, his blue aurora still shining brightly. Ron then raised up his hands in his mecha suit and yelled loudly, "You will not touch her, you hear me? I'll make you regret saying those things!" "Ron, stop!" Kim yelled, swinging down to the ground with her grappling gun. Ridley then struggled to get back up on his feet, but his mecha suit had taken heavy damage from Ron's blows. His broken leg made him much harder. As he made it his way to balance himself up, Ron responded by doing something that both Ridley and Kim never saw coming. Ron yelled angrily in rage, and his chi suddenly turned into a radiant sky blue into a chilling blood red. Then jets of red lightning suddenly burst out of his fingertips and struck Ridley's head on, blasting him back towards the enormous force. He smashed through the wall of the freight car train yards and tumbled across the ground several times before skidding to a halt in the set of abandoned tracks. Ridley was also bashed around inside the suit, causing him to receive several scrapes and slashes in his face with his arms. Kim has yelled at Ron to stop, but he simply ignored her, and Ron had simply tapped into some unknown force that Kim had never seen before, and it seemed to be affecting his judgment as well. "Ron, no! He's beaten! Stop!" Kim pleaded, running towards Ron. Ron, however, paid no attention to her, and he clearly had heard her voice, but the strange power had unwillingly tapped in, letting his rage-fueled actions prevent him from listening. Ridley had also never seen this kind of power in Ron before, and neither had Kim. Even Ron himself had no idea what he was capable of tapping into some darker power. He wasn't sure if it was a darker version of his mystical monkey powers, but it clearly felt more powerful than any force that he ever tapped into before, and it felt terrifyingly amazing. This power, it feels so evil, yet so powerful, Ron thought as he advanced towards Ridley, getting closer and closer. The level of anger and hatred Ron felt towards his enemy, Mystery Man, in his mecha suit was far greater than ever possible. This mysterious new power beaconed Ron to kill him. He raised his fist, which now had grown lightning red, lightning cracking within it. "I'll destroy you!" Ron hissed in a much deeper, evil-sounding voice than his normal voice. "Ron, don't do it! This isn't you! Please stop!" Kim yelled, actually grabbing Ron's shoulder. As soon as she did that, Ron spun around and raised his fist, but he suddenly stopped upon seeing Kim had grabbed him. His anger slowly began to subside, seeing how terrified she actually was. Kim had tears running down her face upon seeing the out-of-control and destructive Ron had suddenly become. Upon slowly seeing this, Ron's anger turned into fear and regret, and the red-growing aurora surrounding his body slowly returned to its normal blue-like color before. "Kim?" Ron stammered, stepping back slowly in shock, glancing at his hands in horror. He glanced over at his mecha suit thug who had mocked him, now on his feet, limping on his broken leg. Few sparks from several areas of his suit due to enormous amounts of damage it took from Ron's assault, which now had charred burn marks all over it. One of the purple eye lens caps had been shattered, slightly revealing Ridley's right eye, yet the absence of the light made it hard to see clearly. "That power! Where? How?" Ridley rasped, his maniacal voice slightly fuzzy from the damage done to his mecha suit. Police sirens cloud could suddenly be heard in the distance, catching Kim and Ron and Ridley's attention. Ridley cursed under his breath, knowing he would have to get out of there quickly, or he'd be caught for sure. Most of the weapon systems in his suit were offline due to the extensive damage had taken from Ron's attacks, yet Ridley still had enough power to use for the smoke screen. Glaring up at Kim and Ron, he activated a smoke screen on his suit, where it began flooding around the space with thick layers of black smoke. "This isn't over, Team Possible. We will meet again," Ridley yelled within the smoke. "You got lucky this time, but next time you won't be so lucky. You're both gonna pay for this. I may have lost some of my spoils here, but I have my biggest consolation prize tonight." "You're not going anywhere, you freak," Kim yelled, rushing towards the smoke layer. Ron simply stayed where he was, contemplating on what he had just done. Ron never knew his mystical monkey powers were capable of doing what they just did, but he had just shot the lightning out of his hands, and it was the most terrifying part was that his chi had turned red, which was something that he had never happened before. Ron's chi had always been blue, and his monkey fist chi had always been gold before turning to stone, but Ron had ever seen their chis turning red before. And also what really worried him was that when his chi turned red, Ron had felt his hatred and rage take over him, like if this was something that never happened when using his mystical monkey powers. However, that was a mecha suit man that made Ron lose control of his anger, and he figured that maybe the factor might have had something to do with his chi turning red, gaining horrifying new abilities. "Ron, he's getting away," Kim called out, rushing towards a broken wall. Ron was caught off of his trance and he rushed over towards the wall, but by the time he got there, the mecha suit individual was gone. The smoke had cleared, revealing only a scorched ground. Ron glanced around trying to find the mecha suit, but he was nowhere to be found. His anger suddenly returned as it quickly had vanished. "Coward!" Ron angrily yelled. "Ron, he's gone. Let's just get out of here and report what happened to Wade and Betty Director," Kim urged, but Ron shook his head. "No, we need to find that medical monster." "Did you not hear anything that bastard said?" he snapped. "I did, but there's nothing we can do," Kim replied. "Yes, there is," Ron hissed. "We need to find him and destroy him before he hurts anyone else." "What? Ron, you're not serious, are you?" Kim asked in shock. Ron then looked at her right in the face and said with tone filled with malice and hatred, "Deadly serious, Kim." Kim felt her heart skip a beat as she saw Ron's eyes. The irises of his eyes were blood red like his cheese had been moments ago. Ron's expression was almost devoid of all emotion except pure hatred. For one brief moment, Kim actually felt frightened by him. She had never seen Ron filled with such hatred before, and his eyes looked so sinister, it chilled her to the bones. "Ron, what's happening to you? This isn't like you at all," Kim exclaimed in fear. Ron felt his anger slowly subsided. As he slowly saw how frightened Kim looked, he suddenly realized that he indeed was not acting like himself as usual. Ron never let his emotions get in the way of a mission. But this had been different. That unknown man in the mecha suit had known for knowing who Ron was. Along with his family and Kim's family, it was what said triggered him and slowly sent him off. That monster threatened to kill him, Kim, her family, and my family. Ron fought fearfully. I'm sorry, Ron paused, the red glow in his eyes vanishing as he calmed down. "I don't know what came over me, Kim. I didn't mean to lose it like that, but that murderous prick threatened to kill our families, and I just lost it. I don't blame you, but your mystical monkey chi," Kim stammered. "It turned red, and you shot lightning out of your hands. I've never seen that happen before. How did you do it?" I don't know, Kim," Ron replied, in a frightened voice as the police sirens grew closer. "When I lost my temper after that freak threatened our families, I tapped into my mystical monkey powers with full intent to kill him, and that's when it happened. I imagined killing him in the worst days imaginable, and that's when I felt this enormous power of me somewhere deep inside, and it called me to me." "Called you? You're implying your mystical monkey powers spoke to you?" Kim asked in confusion. "I can't be for sure if that's what it was," Ron replied doubtfully. "That power trapped into it. It was like my mystical monkey power chi, and my chi normally feels calm and tranquil, but that red chi was nothing like that. It felt so evil, frightening, but also very powerful. Far more powerful than anything I've ever tapped into. It beaconed me to kill that mecha suit crook, and so I tapped into it. It granted me so much power. I wouldn't recommend never using it again, if it's anything like you said it was," Kim advised. "It also affected your judgment as well. I've never seen you act so violent and unhinged like that before. I hate to think what you end up becoming if you fully embrace that dark power." "That's not going to happen. I promise you that," Ron promised. "I don't know what that power tapped into was, but after what it made me to do, I don't even want to consider using it again." "Maybe Sensei may know something about it. You should ask him about it later," Kim suggested. "I'm definitely going to do that the moment I get a chance. I do want to know what sort of power I'm dealing with," Ron replied, as the police finally arrived at the trade yards. Ridley limped weakly through the thicket of trees several miles from the freight train loading yards. His broken leg throbbed in agony every time he tried moving it, and his whole body ached from the pain from the extreme beating he took from Ron. The red lightning also caused immense damage to the electronic system inside the suit, even burning a few of them out. The weapon systems were still offline, and so was their propulsion boots. Ridley had just enough power in his suit to fire his propulsion boots to get far away from the train yards. When they failed on him, Ridley had to resort to using his own long chainsaw as a crutch to help him limp through the woods, since the bone in his leg had been broken when Ron smashed the metal leg in the suit. Some sharp pieces of the metal had also been stabbed into Ridley's broken leg as well, causing him extreme pain whenever he put pressure on it. Some of the red lightning had also got inside his suit, leaving tons of burns all over Ridley's arms and face. He was pretty sure it would take some quite time to repair the damage done to his suit, and this really angered him. Ridley had intended to use it to eliminate Betty Director and Gemini for defying his direct orders for him to not to tell anyone, but he had been working for him. But that wouldn't be possible now since his suit had been badly damaged, and with his broken leg, he also complicated things that Ridley had felt hatred towards Kim and Ron, unstoppable and possible, boiling over as he continued through moving the woods, hoping to find a safe spot where he could call for help. Those damn some rats. They'll ever regret challenging me once I get my leg fixed, Ridley hissed angrily, as he noticed a small bald spot up ahead and looked safe to stop at. There was something else in Ridley's mind that had a strange red aurora that suddenly surrounded Ron. Filling him with that power was far beyond anything Ridley had ever seen before. From what he knew about Ron, his chi was normally blue, but seeing it turn red worried him. Ridley wasn't certain what it was going to do, but for Ron's anger, he had threatened him on a very personal level, and this time he meant it. Ridley vowed to make Ron, Kim, and all their family members pay for reducing him to the broken, crippled mess. However, there was still very little personal level that Ridley knew about the strange power that Ron had gained, so he wasn't to feel to underestimate him. That power is stoppable used, Ridley murmured. It's not like his usual mystical monkey powers. This could be impossible if I face him again. But no matter, I am still able to make a brutal example of how powerless those two are, and the world won't know who the attacker is. Hitting himself down on the clearing, Ridley radioed Faust in a secure line, where it couldn't be traced by law enforcement. Faust, this is Ridley, come in, Ridley reported. The visor screen switched to a view of Aaron Faust back at the Black Shadow Fortress, showing him his headquarters. Yes, Lord Ridley? Faust asked. My suit's been badly damaged, and my left leg's been broken. I'll require some assistance back to the base. I need medical attention as well immediately, Ridley reported. Faust's expression changed for concern upon hearing the report. Damage? How did that happen? He asked in concern. It was Kim Possible's boyfriend, Ron Stoppable, Ridley responded with a tone filled with malice and hatred. He used some sort of strange power to attack me. I don't really know what exactly it was, but I don't care to find out. Strange power? Are you referring to Ron Stoppable's mystical monkey powers? Faust asked curiously. I don't think that's what it was. His mystical monkey chi blue but this power of his red aurora, and it was far too powerful for me to stand against it, Ridley replied. Had Ron's girlfriend not stopped him, he might have killed me. That's unusual for sure, Faust agreed. I'd advise using caution while facing him alone in the future. Hopefully if my plans go well, I won't have to, Ridley replied. And speaking of Stoppable, how is the process on the secret weapon of mine going? I was actually going to inform you earlier about that, Faust responded. Is there a problem? How soon will the construction be completed? Ridley questioned. It's ready now, my lord. Construction on the bomb was completed about an hour ago. Lodorian technology really makes the construction progress quicker and easier, Faust reported. Good, Ridley said with an evil grin. And as soon as the clock strikes midnight, I shall personally deploy the weapon myself. This will set an example to the whole world on what happens when they mess with the Black Shadow. Ron Stoppable may have been bested me back there, but he'll soon learn what happens when you attack me, and what better than to do it than to rob him, one of my closest friends on the planet. Well, very planned, my lord, Faust agreed with a grin. I'll send help for you right away, so rest there. Faust out. Ridley rested against the tree, glanced over in the direction where he came from, hearing the police sirens in the distance. He wondered if Ron Stoppable might try to come after him, but he highly doubted it. Ridley managed to escape through the smoke screen undetected, so he was pretty much sure he was safe. Yet he couldn't help but slightly worried about giving some extreme damage to his suit had he taken. Ridley knew that if someone with hostile intentions managed to find him there, he'd be a sitting duck. But the weapon systems in his suit were offline, and his broken leg had made it impossible to run. So Ridley knew he'd be in trouble if he got caught. So he thought about Ron Stoppable. He recalled seeing Ron Stoppable's expression after his cheek turned red, and it was terrifying. It was a look of pure hatred, rage, and bloodthirst. Ridley had never seen anything like this happen before. In the past, he had his informers watch Ron from the shadows as he battled the evil forces with mystical monkey powers, and not once his chi ever turned red during those times, and Ron had never shown much hostility and bloodthirst towards his opponents. I underestimated him. He's clearly possessed over the power I have ever before, Ridley thought, pondering his thoughts with great concern. Ron Stoppable may be more dangerous to my organization than I thought. I'll need to eliminate him, but not just yet. Ridley had plans to eliminate just not Ron and Kim, but their families, friends, and relatives as well. He had been observing them for the past 10 years, and if there was one thing Ridley had learned, it was learn that bond between Kim and Ron shared with the others that were almost unbreakable. At the time Ridley started observing them, his organization had been mere criminal anarchy, while hiding in the shadows and observing the world around them, operating them with through manipulation and coercion. However, as the years went by and more criminal stuff that has been rejoined his gang, Voyager carefully executed the plan and manipulation. Although the Black Shadow had been more powerful over the years, and it also became more ruthless and sadistic over the years, wiping out any criminal syndicates that had plotted against Ridley, even go as far as to wipe out their family and friends and relatives as well. Eventually, Ridley had managed to even sway away from other criminal syndicates outside of the United States over to his cause, making his own criminal organization a dominant underworld superpower one for the entire globe. He even, however, for Ridley was never enough. Power and domination was over the entire world, something Ridley had longed for ever since the Black Shadow became the most powerful organization in the planet, and there was to control the entire world. Several villains that Kim Possible ever faced in the past had attempted to do this as well, but they had failed to their poor planning or just plain stupidity. Ridley had once considered recruiting Dr. Draken, aka Drew Lipsky, and his sidekick Shigo in the organization at one point, but after the Lordorian invasion, they changed their ways and abandoned villainy altogether. Ridley was quite disappointed by this, as Dr. Draken's intellectual mind could have been a valuable asset to the Black Shadow, and the Lordorian invasion was something Ridley had never seen it coming, and it left millions of people dead. To Ridley, however, it was something God had sent him into his organization, and he had managed to get his hands on quite a heavy amounts of advanced Lordorian technology before the government seized the rest of it. And the help of his engineers, they managed to reverse the engineer a lot of suit and needs for the Black Shadow organization. Spying was the main thing. It was a good thing helping them with, as well as the construction of highly advanced robots of keeping the Black Shadow HQ running. Replacing the human workers, some human workers were still needed for several tasks though. The mecha suit had just been made of a hybrid of human Lordorian technology, making it very formidable against his enemies. Yet Stoppable managed to damage me quite badly and had bruised my leg in the process, and broke it, Ridley thought bitterly. Although the Lordorian technology was far advanced though, it wasn't in perfection. He had learned about it the hard way. Ridley now had a busted leg and a damaged mecha suit for the rest of his Floyd, but he had to make up for that soon enough though. Now that his secret weapon was complete, he'd finally be able to first move on to dominating the world, or at least sending a message just to how fragile human life was. The world he would not know about yet was the Black Shadow organization that was behind the attack. But in time it would. There was a point about 10 years ago when the Black Shadow organization had been exposed to the hands of the man named Lloyd Florence, and Ridley felt his blood boil. Whenever he heard the name Lloyd Florence, he had the FBI detective at the time, when he busted Ridley for his criminal significant stuff, trying to traffic the enormous loads of drugs into Mexico in an abandoned factory near the Texas border. Ridley and Lloyd had quite of a history with each other, and Ridley had always gotten into trouble, thanks to Lloyd getting in his way. Ever since he met Lloyd when he was 13 years old, Ridley hated him, and his hatred had only grown towards it each and every day. After Ridley and his syndicate had been busted by Lloyd, he was trailered off to multiple serious crimes, sentenced up to 20 years in prison. However, Ridley had several powerful connections on the criminal underworld under the time, and helped him break out of prison at least 5 years later, after being jailed. Once he was out, Ridley went into hiding and erased all the traces of existence, using connections to corrupt with the cops and politicians working with the criminal underworld, vowing to not resurface until the time was right. Ridley vowed to even take control of the world one day, and to do it, he would have to operate in the shadows without the public knowing of his existence. So as far as the rest of the world knew, Ridley had died when the police attempted to recapture him and send him back to prison. When the rest of the organization had been disbanded, however, that was when the world didn't know that he was still very much alive, and his organization was far more powerful than ever before. Ridley's connections and alliances with thousands of other criminal organizations across the globe, however, made him almost unstoppable. They only grew more powerful over the years, the following his escape prison. Black Shadow was nameless to the public, but thanks to Gemini, the two of the greatest heroes of Middleton, Colorado, now had the idea who Ridley was. Gemini had been hired on several occasions by Ridley in the past and never thought he would betray him, but of course his sister had to spoil that by having him turn against Ridley. Although Ridley had over 20 free informers working for global justice, they'd still be limited on what they could do to help their fellow crime lord without attracting too much attention, unwanted one at that. This meant that the Betty director could potentially stumble upon something that would expose the Black Shadow once again. Ridley would soon figure out a way to fix this mess in time and eventually eliminate global justice altogether. But that would have to wait. You needed to deal with Kim Possible and Ron Stoppable first. Just you wait, Ridley murmured softly. You two will soon realize how foolish you were to challenge me, and you'll pay for it with your lives. And all those you love, I'll wipe them off of the face of this planet just along with global justice. And with no other forces left to oppose me, I will rule this world and succeed wherever the consequences of your past failed. My organization will become an empire of global empire that I shall rule, and no one can dare oppose me. The sound of whirling wind blowing through could be heard just above. Shortly afterwards, a large painted black aircraft assembling a helicopter suddenly decloaked and landed in the center of a bald spot. Its tail bore the symbol of the Black Shadow organization. A red flag and a red dot in the center had an emblem of Black Shadow with a black red eye skull and a red cross swords on it. Ridley's backup had arrived.